All right, what's going on YouTube? So in this video, I'm going to be installing a cold air intake and also going to the dyno to see is it worth it to run a cold air intake versus having the hot air intake. So previously, before the cold air intake, I did have, I guess they call it like a short ram intake, and it basically comes off the throttle body at a 90, and then it 90s again into where the MAF is, and then there's a filter right there. I'm gonna post a picture of it on the screen somewhere around here. This is not an off-the-shelf kit for the hot air intake. I did have a K&N like aluminum pipe, and then I had a K&N off the MAF, and that's the setup that I actually bought my first car with, which was a long time ago. And I had been running this for a while, and then near the end of the primer car, I actually had a cold air intake set up that I made with Amazon and eBay parts, and I was running that for about a week before I eventually bought the current car, this white car. And I never got around to making or finishing the video that I'm going through now. So what I have right now before this dyno pool is a 3.5-inch 90-degree pipe, and I bought that from Amazon. And what I did was I drilled a 1/2-inch hole where the PCV would be, and I went into Home Depot and I bought a 1/2-inch neoprene grommet. I think that's what it's called. I'll post a picture on the screen. And then I went to Ace Hardware and I bought like a union, I think it's called a union joint or something like that. And you basically put the grommet in the hole, and then you put the union joint in the hole, and then the breather hose just connects on the union joint. And so that's what I did for this current system, as well as for like the couplers. It's just I think it's a 2 1/4 or a 2 1/2 off the throttle body, I can't remember, and then to a 3.5-inch coupler. And then I did I believe it was 3.5-inch to a 4-inch 90-degree coupler, and that's what hooks up to the MAF. Off the MAF, I had a K&N, I think it's called the FIPK. It's really expensive. It's kind of stupid, really. But this is what I had, as well as the hot air intake. I also had the VR4 plenum that you guys seen in the previous videos, and then I also have a full 2.5-inch exhaust, no cat. It is the stock downpipe and the stock headers, so the car is relatively stock. But I'm going to show you guys now what I made. Alright, so that's after the first pull is straight third gear. The second pull is from second to third, 188. So something to note during this dyno pull, if you look at the very end of the dyno graph, it looked like the car was about to start making more power again. There was actually, it started curving upwards. I'm not sure if this is just how the dyno was configured that day or what it was, but we'll see in the later, with the actual cold air intake in the later dyno graphs, this actually goes away. So something to note as well, I did make 179 and then I made like 183, or I can't remember exactly. But that second pull, it was kind of weird because he had me start out in second gear and then shift to third. I kind of just don't want to count this pull or this dyno because it's not like traditional how you just go in whatever gears like 1-to-1 and just take it all the way to red line. So I don't think that one really counts, but I think 179 is about what I was making 100%, because honestly this car felt like it was making around 170, to be honest. So but yeah, I'm gonna go through the install for the 3.5-inch intake. All right, so in the previous clips the car was dynoed and it made 189, and that's with this 3.5-inch intake that I made. And I originally had a cold air intake on the primer car before, like a week before I bought this car, so I never finished the video, but I have everything here to do the install. All of these parts that I have, I'm gonna go ahead and post it on the screen and in the description. I think the total was like around 250 for all the intake parts, and then I'm gonna go through and show you guys how I did it. So all of this is like Amazon parts, other than the velocity stack, and I think the filter was from eBay. But that's a truck filter. Velocity stack is from, I think it's like a Honda site. And then the adapter right here. This is a Spectre adapter. It goes from the MAF to 4-inch, and I'll post that as well. And then I had to get extra bolts so I can put the adapter on. And this is 3.5-inch piping. And then it's the stock throttle body. I went with 3.5-inch because I'm actually gonna get a bigger throttle body, and there's a certain size that you want the intake pipe to be in relation to the throttle body size. So instead of getting like a 3-inch intake that matches the throttle body, I'll just get a 3.5, so I don't have to replace it later. But I'm gonna go ahead and set the camera up, and then we're gonna take it apart right now. I'm gonna go ahead and solder the wires because you have to extend the harness to put it down in the bumper, and then put everything back together. So I'm gonna go through and explain everything that I did for the intake since I don't have that footage. What I ended up doing was buying the rest of these pipes off of Amazon, and it's basically just extending from that 90 degree that I made previously. I went 3.5-inch coupler to a 45 degree 3.5-inch, and so that goes down to just over the transmission. And I actually did forget to mention this, but for the 90 degree that's off the throttle body, you have to cut like 2 to 3 inches of length off of like one side of the 90 degree, and then whatever that short side is, it goes right into the throttle body. And so that extra chunk, couple inches that I had, I reused it after the 45 degree bend over the transmission. And so right after that, I had put the 90 degree 3.5-inch coupler to 4-inch, and the MAF is right after that. So where the intake will shoot out now is basically into the fender well, and from here I actually had planned on leaving the intake there, but the filter that I had got is a truck filter, so it didn't fit. So what I got was the Spectre. I'll put it up on the screen. It's the Spectre adapter for like this car. It says it's for like Eclipses and other Mitsubishis and stuff. You do have to get hardware to install it because it doesn't come with any hardware, and you do have to trim the plastic piece a little bit to get it to fit. But once you do that, the plastic piece fits and you can put the adapter on. The adapter comes with I think it's 6 inches in total of pipe, and I actually cut it short, like as short as I could get it, so that I could fit a 4-inch coupler on and have like the filter tucked further in, but it ended up not working anyways. And then I bought a Blocks Racing velocity stack. It was on sale, and so I cut that short as well, and I hooked that up together. And then that's how I had it at first on the primer car, and I didn't have a filter because it didn't fit. So what I ended up doing on this car was I took a 4-inch 90 degree coupler, I put it on place where the Spectre adapter was. Off of that 90 degree, I ran the Blocks Racing velocity stack, and then off of that I ran a truck filter. And so it's basically pointed towards up, and I'll show you guys some clips of how it looks. And it's actually probably a little bit better this way because the cold air is hitting the mesh, and it should help to force the air in. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll the footage for the pull after installing the intake and the dyno footage. Alright, so we had the dyno again, part 2. We're on the dyno. I lost my front lip on the freeway, so RIP $90 front lip. That shit's gone. And then just to show you guys, there's not much different. I have the cold air intake. Goes out the fender with the trumpet velocity stack. You guys can see. We're gonna see how much this makes over the shorty filter.
We're happy with the power last time, so we made big old intake over the 400.
All right, you guys are reading that correctly. I made 193. Now the reason why I made 191 at first and then 193 is because the oil got thinner as the car got hotter, and it just runs more efficiently with thinner oil. So basically I made 14 horsepower off of extending the intake to basically a cooler air. Now what I believe what actually happened is not that it's getting colder air, but the fact that the intake is longer, and as well as stepping it up to 4-inch, because off of the MAF the adapter goes up to 4-inch. So I think that this has like a little effect where it kind of just helps flow more air. But mainly the velocity, I think the velocity, just having a longer intake, it just developed more velocity as it got to the throttle body and forced more air in. So the whole idea behind the cold air intake is that you're getting colder air instead of getting the hot engine bay air. And the only thing this is really going to help with is just the consistency. So as the car is starting, the engine's starting to get hot, you're still drawing in the colder air it would normally get, versus having a hot air intake and you're getting cold air at first, but then the second pull you'll probably lose power because now you're heat soaking the intake. I also forgot to mention, I believe the velocity stack on the filter helps a lot as well. You don't have to get velocity stacks depending on what filter you get, because some filters have built-in velocity stacks. Like K&N, their best filters have a velocity stack already built in. So if you have a filter like that, you wouldn't need to run a velocity stack. But yeah guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video here. I think if you guys really want to do this and you guys live in a dry environment, you're comfortable with running a cold air intake, I would 100% do it. It's very budget friendly. Like I said, I only paid $200 around there, give or take. And yeah, for 14 wheel horsepower, that's pretty good just for $200. It's way better than the aftermarket options. You can look on eBay and all of the other performance websites that all of these short air, like the ram air intakes, they're like a couple $100, more than 200. They're like $300, $400. It's just not really worth it. You're not going to get any gain for that versus the OEM airbox that's already getting cool air. I have a lot of content coming. I have a sponsor after this video that I'm going to work on either today or tomorrow. But once I get that video out, we are going back to doing more performance stuff, because the performance videos have been doing pretty good on this channel. I actually have a throttle body. It just came in, so I'm going to be doing a larger throttle body. I'll be going back to the dyno and seeing what I make from there. And as well as that, I have a 3-inch exhaust that I want to put on this car. But the 3-inch exhaust is going to be kind of tricked because I need to cut it up, and I'm just going to do some bootleg shit to get it to work. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to let you guys go here. If you guys enjoyed the video and you guys want to see more dyno videos to see how much these cars can make full bolt on, just drop a comment down below, leave a like. It helps push the videos out, and consider subscribing.